All right, welcome back to the Patriotic Dragon radio program, April 19th, taping of the show. We want to thank Rocco's Pub and Grill for hosting us again this month. Patriotic Dragon is heard on WYYZ 1490 AM, our hometown radio station here in Jasper, Georgia. As always, the opinions, comments are those of the guest, not necessarily those of WYYZ or our sponsor. Our sponsor this month is Atlanta Motorsports Park, located on Highway 53 West, just across the Dawson County line. Go online to register or come out to try our 55 mile per hour go-karts, kart racing on the most awesome track in Georgia. Memberships available as well. The owner, Jeremy Porter, invites you to come feel the thrill at AMP. We're pleased to have on with us this week panelist Jim Harris. Jim, good to have you back on.
Pleasure to be here.
All right. Reverend Jim Bowman with the Fellowship of God Ministries.
Good to be here.
All right, Mr. Bowman. And Jake Trowell of the Timothy House. And after we have a commercial break, we're going to have Bill Newton will be on with us to discuss his run for Pickens County Commission Chair. Jim, if you would, tell us a little bit more about yourself and the Fellowship of God Ministry.
With the Fellowship of God Ministry, to say that I've grown up in the church, and fellowship is what faith is all about. To me, is the relationship with Christ is a fellowship, and I've been looking. I started in 2009 the Fellowship of God Ministry here. I have a chance to get in and out of the Pickens County Correctional Institute and member of the Pickens Ministerial Association, which allowed me to have access to chaplaincy at Piedmont. Growing around the community is fellowshipping. Our churches, I feel, are in need of that fellowship, one-on-one. Yes, the word is important, but the fellowship that goes along with that word is what Christ is all about. So, I've been following Christ as a minister since 1990. Started in Ohio, moved to Tennessee, and found myself in Georgia, actually following my wife and her means of employment. Fellowship is what my life is all about. I just look for fellowshipping with other people, and to me, Christ is the only answer. So with fellowshipping and Christ, that's what my life is all about right now.
All right. Well, the way you pronounced Ohio, I'm thinking you must be from up there.
Ohio.
It's that short version of Ohio.
Yeah, I'm one of those northerners.
I always thought it was just had an A at the end the way they pronounce it. All right. Well, I'm glad to have you on, Jim. All right. Jake, if you would tell us a little bit more about the Timothy House and your mission with the young men that you work with.
My name is Jake Trowell, and I'm a pastor and program director at the Timothy House. I came to the Timothy House in 2007, so I've been there almost 9 years. And what we do, we work with men who struggle with addiction. And I say we work with men, we're a residential program. So the men in the program live there at the Timothy House. Of course, along with men come moms and dads and wives and siblings and children with women and children and men and all of those people that are involved. But we focus on the man and so that he can be what God's called him to be, the head of his house, and lead his children in the way and raise his children in the right way. Our program is 9 months long, the standard length of the program. When a man comes in, at first he doesn't work a job. We do a lot of community involvement, a lot of work in the community. We volunteer at the community thrift store. We help widow ladies in the community cut grass, this and that. As the need arises, we try to meet the need and learn how to give back. And that's one of the first lessons that a man learns when he comes to the Timothy house: how to give back, and also how to be humble, follow rules, be subject to some authority instead of do whatever you want, whenever you want. And it's a great ministry. I'm blessed to be a part of it, and it's just it's worked wonders. It's a miracle in my life, as well as I think many others.
Right. How many gentlemen do you have in the program currently?
Right now, 43. I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you know every one of their first names, right?
Yes, sir. I've got them right here on my phone. I can read them off to you if you want.
No, I mean on site. You can remember.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, we build a relationship with these guys. I mean, some of them are at the very end of their program. Some of them are just getting ready to graduate. Some of them just came in. We brought a new guy in yesterday. And so, and I've got a guy graduating, one or two graduating on the 12th of June, and so that gentleman's been with us for a year. And so, not only his first name, his mama's first name, and his children's names, and his, all of this. Yeah, we build a relationship with the guys, and if they make it, not everybody makes it through the program because it's difficult. The program's difficult, but addiction, which is what we're trying to address, is extremely difficult. And you can look up the stats on that as far as success rates and stuff like that. And they're not as good as I'd like them to be, of course.
Sure.
But yeah, no, I have a relationship of some sort with all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think what a lot of people don't realize is that recidivism in the addiction side of it, if there's not a spiritual element to their recovery, the recidivism is over 75%.
Yeah,
The people who are saved in that from the addiction are generally people who've been saved and have a path, and that's so.
It's a tremendous component in dealing with addiction, and even those that are not Christian. And we're a faith-based program. Right up front when you come in, we're a Christian program. This is our beliefs, and part of our program is attending church and devotions every morning and things like that. So, but even programs that are not faith-based, they are more and more recognizing the importance of what they call spirituality, and so they're making room for the spirituality in there. It's not something I don't think that you can treat without including that component. And everybody's in a different place. And I bring men in that are atheists. That's not a requirement to come in that you're Christian or Baptist or this or that or anything in particular. But it's a tremendous component in dealing with it is realizing that there's something more than me.
Right.
And there's a bigger reason than me to do better and get better.
Right.
Don't you find that you know how you got where you are, and that's following Christ? And that we see in our lives the fact that the only way we are where we are is through the relationship with Christ. It doesn't mean everything's perfect and it's easy, but we have the component in our life to say we can't get through the day without Christ. And that's the neat part about your organization, is that I've been out there before, and those men know the faith of the operation, that where you stand and your dad stands and where the organization stands, it's standing on that foundation of Christ. And whether they choose to follow that or not gives them that ability to make it or not, I think.
And of course, we're sowing seeds. Everybody doesn't make a profession of faith while they're there at the house. Everybody doesn't get baptized. Everybody doesn't accept Christ immediately. We're sowing seeds, and absolutely what you began saying is a fact, and I'm not shy to share it, that without Him, without Christ, I'm not a very good guy, and I'm certainly not the guy that's trying to help anybody, and that's the only way. And in my life and in my experience, and when I share Christ, because that's what it is. That's what it is that's changed my life completely.
Well, good. Jim H, anything you want to add?
I can be a witness to what God does. And I can be a witness because of the guy sitting next to me, Mr. Bowman. We go camping with Jim, my wife and his wife, and we all go out into the woods. And some nights there was a historical moment that occurs when we just start discussing religion. So it's a very intriguing night, but I can attest to what God does in me. I retired in 2011, and because of things beyond my control, I had to go back to work, and it bothered me and my wife, and we worried about it, but I've had to do that twice now, and every time a job shows up. And I really don't pursue them that well. I get online and I get things, but they show up when I need it, and they always have, and they always will. So you don't have to tell me there's a God. I believe there is a God, and all you have to do is ask. And sometimes it takes me a while to ask. That's why there's delay sometimes. Sure. So you gotta ask. That is a requirement in my head. But Jim and I did the jail ministry for a while together. And that was an intriguing thing because you see people who are kind of raw at that point, and they don't know where they're going. They're just pulling all directions. Jim has a knack in calming that down and getting them focused. And I've learned to do that a little bit myself. So, but it's all, love your neighbor. I mean, how else can you explain that?
As yourself,
That's
even.
right.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing that I'll say from my short life experience is, I guess you say I was blessed to have the opportunity to serve beginning tours with a lot of atheists and come home with a lot of saved people. And the old adage, there's no atheist in a foxhole, is as true today as it was at the Revolutionary War. And that's where my experience was from. You learn that there is a superior being, and it's not you.
And sometimes you have to put men and women in situations that open their eyes to the fact that we can't do it ourselves. There is only one answer, I keep telling people, and that's Christ. And that answer is life, wisdom, direction, wakening us up to our surroundings, and maybe realizing that it isn't about us. It's about being used for Him to enlighten somebody else. So when that bomb goes off above somebody's head, it's maybe the awakening of his surroundings or their surroundings to realize life can be so short, but life everlasting is forever.
Well, what the subject that we had talked about that I really wanted us to discuss, and this is just so the listeners know, this won't be the first show we do on this, because I think I know it's a very important subject and needs to be discussed more in our society. I want to begin with the discussion with when our nation was founded on the Judeo-Christian beliefs and how that's changed our collective thoughts through today and society's norms. So I'll kick it back to you, Jake.
So how that changes our collective thoughts, you say?
Yeah. I have a tendency to take things from the founding of this country,
Yeah.
because the people who risked their lives to come here and have religious freedom. So
Sure, sure, and that's as far as the Judeo-Christian beliefs of the founders, and most of them were Christians. Some of them were deists. All of them believed in a creator, a single creator of the universe, who created man and who endowed that man with these unalienable rights. And that is something that's going away in this society. That a belief that there is a God, there is one God, and He created everything. People want to argue that the founders weren't all Christians. They weren't all Christians. That's true, but they all had that one thing in common. And so you can't use that as an argument to, say we're an atheist nation, or because that's not the founding of this nation. And I think the founding of this nation is why it's the great nation that it still is, and I believe it's a great nation. Plenty of things to complain about, I guess, or disagree with, for sure. But I'm of the belief that it's still a great nation, and I think that's why. I think the way the founders carefully worded and laid out the founding documents of this country was so almost perfect, and I think inspired, that it's brought us this far, and I think it's going to take us further. I don't think we're seeing the end of this great nation, although it may seem like that sometimes.
I think we also came to this country for freedom. And to me, that's what my relationship with Christ is freedom. He frees us to be people for Him, for other people. And I think the people that came to this world to say we wanted freedom of religion, they wanted freedom. They wanted not to be told that they had to do. But they came as a group. They came as a fellowship. They came to grow and experience and help each other. That this country could not have happened without people helping each other. And I think that's the freedom, that I have the freedom to help somebody else. And I think some of our country is saying, no, it's about me. I don't want to be free to help you. I want you to just help me. And I believe that going back and saying, I don't care what faith you are, I care what's in your heart. I care whether you love somebody, including this country, enough to help somebody else in this country get ahead. And once you've given it away, you get it back. And I think that's what the forefathers did. They gave their freedom away to gain a country that helped other people. And I'm not sure if this country isn't starting to be too self-centered instead of the freedom to just care about who lives next door. Not whether... I laugh every once in a while. My wife loves to watch House Hunters, and you hear somebody come in and say, but I'm too close to my neighbor. I'm going, what do you mean? You have the perfect opportunity to stand under your back porch and talk to your neighbor. And I believe that maybe that's some of our problems. I want to talk to my neighbor. I want to care about my neighbor. And I think that goes back to the founding fathers, that they cared about the country they came to. And they cared enough to get people involved.
Jim?
We've gotten too too involved in the terms that we're using to express ourselves these days. The louder you yell, I think the more attention you get. We have become so convoluted in what we're trying to say. We push Christ and God right out of the picture and say, this isn't going to work unless we do it my way. Well, I don't do anything that's my way. I don't have a way. I have God's way of doing things. You can tell people what you think without yelling at them and making things so hard to understand for the average person that you automatically dislike the guy talking to you. Just listen to the news every night. You can listen to that. It's gotten a lot worse in the last 5 years.
Yeah, I would say this definitely the last 20 years has been a slow progression, but it seems to have in that last 7 or 8 years with the changes, it's just manifests itself in the pushback of societal norms. Everything has to be tried to tear it down in the process of, well, we've got to have change. Change can be good, but change that you don't analyze is what we have today. And I think we don't analyze, and if you fail to look at history, you're doomed to repeat it. So.
How many times do we fail to realize that the change has to be in my heart? That sometimes I don't deserve to be given freely something that I want, that my freedom comes from enjoying the work to get where I want to go, the relationship with other people to learn how to get what I would like, instead of sitting back saying it's your fault that you haven't come along and given it to me. I laugh with my wife. I expect to win the lottery. But I also say that the only way I'm going to win the lottery is somebody's going to come along and knock on my door and give it to me. You've got to participate in order to win. You've got to participate in life in order to get ahead. Sometimes it's choosing what path you're going to follow. I don't need the lottery, so I don't need to participate in it. I need to have friends, so I need to go participate it with my neighbor. I need to participate in the community. I need to find places that need somebody to listen, care, pray, talk to. And those are the areas that I believe we maybe lack in, instead of sitting back saying the government owes me. No, I owe Christ my loyalty. I owe Christ everything, and it's not about anything but following Christ. Is where I'm at right now.
Yeah. Exactly.
Go back, one thing you're talking about change, and my life changed, for the better. When I accepted Christ in 2006, early in 2006, and that was a good change, and there was a reason for the change, and there was a need for the change, and it was obvious by the way my life was going that something had to change. But change for the sake of change, change just because, the old timers did it this way, and this is not the old times anymore, so we should change. There's something to be said for tradition too. I think we need more adherence to tradition today than we do change. I think the change is changing us into something that none of us are going to enjoy when it's fully implemented, even those that are for it today. When this change that's happening to our country, when it does take place, it's not going to be a pleasant environment for anyone, those that created the change or those that resisted it. It's going to be an unpleasant place to be, in my opinion. That's my view of it. Change, why? I think is a better reason, or a better question, is why change?
Yeah.
maybe there are some things that need to change, but not everything. Just you don't have to just change everything just because.
Yeah, well, and like I say, I think changing things back in a lot of respects would be the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
And get back to a solid foundation instead of one that an experimental foundation. And that's what I see in our schools. I see that in society and interaction between people in a personal aspect as well as business and that type of thing. I mean, there was a time that if you pulled up in front of a person's place, you didn't look to see if they had a logo saying they were a Christian on it. You knew in the first 5 minutes you talked to them. And then we got to a point in our society when you see somebody with a fish on the door, you're hesitant to go in because you don't want to deal with them. And it's just, so there's those, I kind of like it the way it was when I was a kid. And I'm only 57, but I remember, we knew all our neighbors, like you said, Mr. Bowman, that, our parents had to call us twice at dark because that's when it was time for dinner. We weren't on a PlayStation. We weren't, playing dark ops on our computer and all that stuff. We were up under the porch at the neighbor's house doing things or fishing down in the river, whatever stuff, until we had to go home. And then we knew it was time, because we knew it was time for dinner, homework, get a bath, go to bed.
And we had direction from our parents. And so often I see maybe our lifestyle is saying, I want my schools to take care of my children. I want my government to take care of me. I want the community to take care of us. I want. And I don't remember my parents saying, I want. I heard my parents saying, I need to. And how many of our churches want people to come into them to worship? Why aren't we, if I'm not telling my neighbor about the place where I worship, why? If I'm not telling people about why I worship, why? And I heard somebody say, we need to put prayer back in school. I don't have a problem with that. Every time my child went to school, he went with prayer. If I don't pray over my child to send them out into the world, why do I expect somebody else to pray over them? It's my responsibility as a parent to be responsible for my child. It's not the schools, it's not the government. It's my responsibility as a man of Christ to be responsible for my family. And that includes my faith, my relationship with Christ, my prayer over them, my belief that prayer will work, my belief that the scriptures are true. And we didn't need to back off. We just need to go forward and start saying, I don't care if you don't believe. I'm telling you, you should believe. Jesus Christ is the only way, and I'm not afraid to tell people that. And there are a lot of people that are afraid, and maybe it's the fact that they don't have the relationship with Christ, that they're comfortable to say, Jesus Christ is the only way. We, as men of Christ, need to make a difference. We need to change this world. This radio program changes this world. It's mentioning Christ. It's getting Christ out on the air where he is anyway. And it's changing lives. And it's only through Christ that lives can be changed.
I think, Jim, even though some people tend to not have parents that take that responsibility, and I was one of those kids. But God always throws somebody in front of you, and he sure did in my case, and he continues to do that. So all you got to do is ask for help, and you get help.
Yeah.
Just ask.
Yeah.
And we don't ask. This issue on what we're doing to change things that we're going through right now is just, I don't understand that. Nothing's changed. See, we're changed down here.
Jake doesn't ask for those men to come out to Timothy House. They're basically told by the courts to go to the Timothy House. Jake has the opportunity to change their lives just because he is, and he is given the chance to surround those men and families with his lifestyle. And so it's not always the fact that we have a parent. It's the fact that God puts in our pathway men and women that will change our lives. It's not always the fact that I have to ask for that. Sometimes it's the fact that believing that Jesus is in charge, you are given the opportunity to be there for those men. And to me, that's what life in Christ is all about.
And in a lot of cases, that is true that the men at the Timothy House are court mandated, but whether they knew what they were getting into or not, many of them don't. But it started somewhere with them saying, "I need help." They told the judge, they told the jailer, they told their parents, they told the probation officer, somebody that I need help. And not all, about 60% of the guys are mandated, maybe more. But there are those that just, they've said I needed help, and then they've followed it up. The court mandate is really, in my view, a great thing. It backs up what I already want, right? It's like, if I tell you I want to go on a diet, and I don't want to eat pizza anymore. I want help. And then the next time I grab a slice of pizza, you throw it across.
Yeah.
Well, you're helping me in that, right? You're backing me up. This is what I want
That's what you said
to do. It's what I said I wanted to do. And so now you're there to reinforce that and to say, hey, this is what you said. Remind me and hold me accountable. And in the case of these guys, they have a judge, a probation officer, DA, bond conditions, whatever it may be, over their head saying, if you don't complete this, that A, B, or C is going to happen. And it helps hold them accountable long enough so that they can hear me and listen to and not just me, but many of the guys that work there. I've got a great team of leadership, my house leaders and my administrator, and I mean, just, men that are really sold out and want to help others. And as, they experience the love, as they experience the way that we live, the way that we try to act, and the way that we treat them, it begins to change. It begins to change things a lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, I say I happen to be a master mason, and there's a saying in Masonic lore, and that no man ever stood as tall as when he kneeled to help a child. And I think that's true. When you get something out of it that you don't get any other way.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
And that kind of rolls into the next thing I wanted to kind of talk about is, what do you see as men of faith should be your focus to not just younger people, but I reference it as younger people, as they struggle with their faith and the societal pressures to accept everyone else? How do you advise them of how to deal with that? Because I see so much pressure on, especially young people, that you have to be accepting of everybody and those what they consider to be norms.
And I have 4 children. I have 7, 10, 12, and 18. And of course they're all in school. And we don't have to accept everything in life in the sense that we condone it, right? I accept you with your faults, and I love you, and I want to pray for you and help you, and I'm going to be kind to you. I accept you in that sense, but I don't accept you in the sense that everything that you're doing is okay. If you are in addiction, for example, I accept these guys in, and I say, I love you. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Let's, I want to help you. So I accept them in that sense. But I don't accept that it's okay to live in addiction. I don't accept that it's okay to have this lifestyle. And it is a lifestyle, like any other lifestyle we may choose. It's a lifestyle, and it's not acceptable to God. It's not acceptable to Christ. That doesn't mean that He won't accept you and love you and help you, and it doesn't mean that He didn't die on the cross for you. Of course, it means all of those things. But accept has come to mean condone,
Right.
and it's two different things. And so that's my advice to young people is accept doesn't mean you have to agree with
Or participate in.
or participate in. Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Participate in.
And I listen to many churches talk about going out and getting young people brought in. And I've always said we're reversing that. We need the strength of parents. We need not to allow our children to be our spiritual strength. We need to be the spiritual strength for them. One of the gentlemen that I had supper with one night, his son came home from college and said, I don't know why I came home tonight, but I just felt that I needed to be here. He said, I do not leave this house, even as a college student, without mom and dad praying over me before I walk out the door. He said, that is the only saving grace that I have in this world, is the fact that my parents pray over me for safety every single day. And I'm thinking, wow, what a statement that young man made. The other thing is, when we baptize a child in our churches, we as a congregation say that we will be there for the raising of that child. And how many congregations really follow? I know I haven't. The growth of so many, because I've moved to different churches. I'm wondering where those people are that I said I would be a part of their spiritual growth. I'm finding nowadays that I am a part of their spiritual growth because I know the power of prayer. I know I can go back and start praying for those people I remember. And prayer is the power given to parents to protect their children, to go into a world that needs God's protection over them. And so, yeah, I look at young people. I don't want to give the society the freedom to raise young people. I want to give Christ back to parents so they can raise their children in the name of Christ with spiritual strength, scripture reading. Had a dear friend in high school that you go to their house for supper, and at the end of supper, one of them, my friend and his brother, one of them got up and went and got the scriptures. His dad read from the Bible after supper every single night. And I'm thinking, what a powerful statement. And it didn't matter who was in the house, that was their life. We need to follow what the scriptures say. And are we teaching our parents, our non-parents, our kids, what the scriptures really give us the power to do in living in a world that needs Christ so desperately?
I can't improve on that statement.
Okay. All right.
It's just that I've learned in my life that there are things that you can see and things you can't see. And one of the things that you really can't put your hand on is faith. And that's hard to teach young kids.
Yeah.
You have to live faith to be able to understand what it is. And I'm 70 years old now, and I finally realized this year that, yeah, somebody's watching over me besides him.
And Marlene.
Well, we'll talk about that later. But it's hard. It's hard to tell kids what faith is because it's. I grew up in the church as a kid. Thank God for grandmothers.
There you go.
She gets us all to church.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in a going to Catholic school and that type of thing. Went to military school and public school, and I actually learned more about faith and overall religion in military school than I did in my 9 years in Catholic school. And it was because we studied theology. And we studied theology from atheism to Buddhism to Catholicism to Christianity, all down to Zionism. And those 2 years, I realized that no matter where you came from, there was a foundation. And that overlying thing was that there was a superior being that had a hand in the creation of the earth and everything on it. And no matter what your doctrine was, if you went back to that foundation, you were probably going to be okay. And whether your religion was 6,000 years old or 2,016 years old, those people that had that basis were solid, and you could count on them. So, but I want to thank all of y'all for being on, and I also want to invite y'all to all come back to do another show. And I'd like to talk about your programs, how people can attend and be a part of your programs. Jim, if you would, if somebody wanted to attend Fellowship of God Ministries, do you have a place that y'all meet, get together for fellowship, or?
Why, yes. It's the Pickens County Correctional Institute. That's where I basically meet. I attend a church here locally, so I'm not actually within a building.
So they can meet your programs.
They can meet me.
Where Rocco?
Or get arrested.
Yep. Get arrested and
In Pickens County.
In Pickens County, and I'll come visit them. Yeah, it's fellowshipping. I'll talk to anybody anywhere. Sometimes my wife says I talk too much, but hey, yeah, and that's Fellowship Hall was in a building for a year, and a lady came one Sunday and said, God says you're doing what you're supposed to, but you're just not in the right place, and I'm out on the street. And that, to me, is where Christ is so needed, and it's a great way to grow in Christ, is to talk with other people.
All right, Jake, if somebody wanted more information and help support your efforts, or had somebody that was in need,
Sure.
how would they get in touch with you?
The first step would probably be go to the website, www.timothyhouse.org, all one word. You can read up on us. It's a work in progress, as I am, and I do the website for the most part. Kind of got the basics up there, and a little extra, but there's other ways to contact us. Telephone and email and our address. But Pickens County, if you are interested in the ministry, you can send us an email through the website. If you know somebody in need in Pickens County, if there's a man who's homeless in Pickens County, we will take him in, period. Whether it's for a night or two to help him just get cleaned up and fed, or if it's long term, whatever it is. And so if you know of anyone homeless in Pickens County, send them our way. We'll talk with them, and we'll go from there. Also, if you know someone in need in Pickens County of some basic things, like maybe lawn work, or and we do have limitations, of course. I can't cut all of Pickens County's grass, but that's a big part of our ministry, and it's really some widows and stuff, Jim. But no, if you're in need, let us know, and we'll do what we can do to help. And maybe it's a prayer, and maybe it's come cut your grass, and who knows? But we want to be more involved in Pickens County, and I want more people to know about us and what we do. And of course, the guys at our house are from all over the state, from Augusta to Northwest Georgia to Dade County, Catoosa County, and everywhere in between. But we're here in Pickens County, and this is the community that our men give back in, and so we want to do more of that if we can.
All right. Thank y'all for being on. We're going to take a quick break and then come back and have Bill Newton on with us.
Thank you,
guys.
Thank you.
All right, we're ready to go. All right. Welcome back to the Patriotic Dragon radio program here at Rocco's Pub and Grill. Patriotic Dragon radio is heard on WYYZ 1490 AM, your hometown radio here in Jasper, Georgia. Our sponsor this month is the Atlanta Motorsports Park, located on Highway 53, just across the Dawson County line. Go online to register or come by to try out our 55-mile-per-hour plus kart racing on the most awesome track in Georgia. Membership's available as well. The owner, Jeremy Porterfield, invites you to come feel the thrill at AMP. We're pleased to have on with us on this week's show Bill Newton, running for the county commissioner's position. Bill, thank you for being on with us.
Well, thank you, William, for inviting me.
All right, Bill, I'd like to kind of open it up. So if I know there's a tremendous amount going on in the county as far as the races, and what I'd like to do is kind of ask you about when you were commissioning previously. Talk about some of the accomplishments that you were able to achieve when you were commissioner before.
Okay, I took office in 2000, and we were in dire need of some water sources in Pickens County. In order to have any development in the county, and in order to help the fire stations and the emergency services we have, we needed a steady supply of water. So whenever you arrive out with a fire truck, you got a hydrant within a certain distance, so you can tie to, and you can perform your job, you fight fire, maybe save somebody's structure or somebody's life. I engaged in a venture to try to explore areas, and during that I negotiated with the city of Calhoun to purchase water from Calhoun, or the city of Calhoun, not Calhoun, but city of Calhoun. And we actually tied into their system on Highway 411 north of Fairmount. And we ran water up to what we call Pearl Johnson Road, put a pump station, and built a water tank on 53, pump water to that, and then from there we could pump water all the way to Hinton, to Talking Rock. We pumped it across Henderson Mountain, came over to Tate. We supplied that area. Then the east end of Pickens County, around Yaller Creek area, Cove Road area, well, they never had a chance to have water, so we set in again on another venture to try to do something to get water to those areas. We negotiated and received a rural development grant, and we made a loan and got the grant. We tied into Cherokee County. We built a water tank off of Cove Road. We ran water all the way back to Tate, hooked our system. Ran water out to Steve Tate Road toward Big Canoe. Ran water on Cove Road. While we were doing all this, to provide a better fire service, we built a fire department in the Yaller Creek area. We got the land donated to us from the pools that own the Pickens County Progress. I went to them and told them what we wanted to do, and they had a piece of property that would have been a great location, and if you've been in that area, you can see it. So they donated us the property. We built the fire station. At the same time, we were running water. We tied into Cherokee County on Yaller Creek Road at the county line. So we ran water to that fire station along several of the roads, Lawson Federal, Yaller Creek Road, 4 Mile Church Road, Cove Road, 53, all the way to Tate. While we were doing that, we still saw the need for some fire service along the Bent Tree area, along Cove Road. So we built another fire station on Cove Road, just across the entrance on Bent Tree Drive. Fortunately, I went to another family, Barbara and Frank Penley. Their son John was a volunteer with the Grandview Fire Department. I asked them, they had an ideal piece of property. I asked them if they'd be willing to donate that property. Now, they're not a rich family, but they said if it'll help, the community and help the area, we'll donate the property. So they donated the property. We built the fire department. Along about 2003, we passed a splosh tax, which was primarily for water and public safety. So we were able, with that splosh tax, to purchase a new pumper tanker fire truck for all of the volunteer fire departments in Pickens County, which were paid for out of the splosh tax. And fortunately, we didn't collect enough money before I left office to use on the water system or the road department. When I left office in 2004, we still had $7 million in the splosh fund to pave gravel roads in the county. At that time, we still had about 90 miles. Well, we still got about 90 miles, and our $7 million is gone. And we had $4 million I left for the water system. We wanted to build a packaged water treatment plant because while we were in the process of laying all these water lines, we drilled, I guess, half a dozen wells over Pickens County, and we were going to build our own packaged water treatment facility and have our own water where we're not purchasing from Gordon County or Cherokee County or the city of Jasper. We left that money in the account, and we still don't have a water treatment facility. So I want to seek office again to try to fulfill these ideals and dreams we had of having all of our roads paved, having our own water system where we don't have to purchase water. The county, when I was in office, and they still do, we purchase about $500,000 a year worth of gravel for this 90-mile roads. Well, if we'd have took that $7 million and paved these gravel roads, we could have, from that point on, we could have used the $500,000 to do more resurfacing with asphalt on the gravel roads or paved roads. So, anyway, these are things that I had envisioned and actually had money to do that didn't get done. So, and now I look at the county, and I noticed in the Pickens County Progress where for 8 years the county has went over $24.5 million over their budget. Well, sometimes it's pretty easy to go over budget. I went over budget in 2004. That's when we built the state patrol post in Pickens County, and I really caught a lot of criticism because we built a post that would house 10 to 12 patrol officers and try to help patrol the roads in Pickens County. I know it cost us $1,200,000 to build a building. Well, if you think about what one of your family members' life is worth out on Pickens County roads, $1,200,000 is not any money. There's not a life out there that's worth less than that. I feel like every person's life in Pickens County is worth more than what it costs to build that patrol post.
Absolutely.
And if we've got, 4 to 6 patrol officers patrolling the county roads, that means that turns our deputies in the county have more time to work on crime and other areas than patrolling our roads. The patrol post was not built for a revenue generating facility, although the tickets and the revenue that they generate amounts to over $100,000 a year, But that's not why the post was built. It was built to save lives.
Right.
The money is just a gift that comes back to us for helping to save lives and patrol our roads. If we had to replace those patrol officers with deputies, it would cost us somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000 to $60,000 a year per man. Every time you pay a man's salary,
Oh yeah.
you buy him a car, you pay for his gas. It's actually saving the county money to have the patrol post where it's at, and the patrol officer. But you got different arguments on that, and I understand. I look at it one way, some people look at it another. But I'm looking at the lives that are out here on the highways. Another thing that I did, public safety. My dad was a policeman for ever since in the 1950s. I lived in the old jail here in the 50s when he was deputy sheriff. So, when it comes to law enforcement and public safety, I've got a soft place for it. So, while I was commissioner, we did purchase new ambulances. I can't remember. I think we purchased 2 or 3 new ambulances. But we had a sort of a rule that we didn't send all of our ambulances out of the county at one time.
Yeah.
It's a problem we have now, and you'll hear arguments over this. But for people that have their scanners and they listen to all the 911 calls, they can verify what I say is that for a money generating thing now, our ambulances are sent out of the county on not emergency calls. Okay, they're actually generating a little revenue whenever they take a patient from the hospital and they take them home, or they take them from this hospital to another hospital. They're generating a little revenue, but they're leaving our county unprotected. And I've talked to a lot of former EMS personnel and firemen who have actually resigned and left Pickens County because they don't like the fact that we're abandoning the citizens of the county for revenue. I've heard them personally tell me that they've waited for 30 and 45 minutes at accidents. Now some of these are active duty. They may be City of Jasper firemen, but they're 30 to 40 minutes for an ambulance with a wreck and a patient. Okay. When you've got somebody in an accident that needs emergency services, if it's my family or your family, I don't want to see lay there on the highway or in a stretcher for 30 minutes waiting on an ambulance when we have 4 ambulances now in the county, and there's no reason not to keep at least 2 ambulances in the county full time. And that's what we did while I was sole commissioner. We had a rule that we kept 2 ambulances in the county, and we did have an ambulance that we ran. We did do these non-emergency calls, but we would not put the citizens in jeopardy by sending them all out of the county at one time. Right. People just don't know a lot of these things. I'm trying to make them aware of what's going on. Sure. Financially, we're broke. We're borrowing $5.5 million on next year's revenue, which is supposed to be used to operate next year. Right. If they look in the Pickens County Progress this week, they'll see we're being over budget. We don't mention the $5.5 million. We're just mentioning that we've been over budget. The county can only borrow a certain amount of this money that they're borrowing, the $5.5 million. Our limit is $7.5 million. If we have a catastrophe in Pickens County, and we've had them before where we've had tornadoes and tornado damage, if we have a real catastrophe and we have to come up with $3 million or $4 million just to dig our way out where we can put services back in order, I don't know what the county would do right now. That's a problem we're going to have to resolve if I'm elected. And then we're going to get to where we're not borrowing that $5.5 million. That costs us the opportunity to have grant money for different projects. I feel like that the county has went downhill in a lot of ways. I know that our current commissioner has built several buildings. but we've had $35 million worth of splosh money to use on the last splosh. The one before that, I left almost $20 million. So it's not like that he took those out of county budget. He took those out of splosh money. When I was commissioner, we developed an area we used county money and we used county property where the Good Samaritans and the thrift store and the food pantry all are. We developed that site. We helped Good Samaritans get started. I got them the first building where they used as an office, I got it donated to them. And then they purchased the other two. I arranged for them to purchase those. I agree we used the county's land and the county's money to develop those areas, but I feel like that they've served the county, people that really need those services. And Don Russell, I'll have to give him an A+. He's helped put money from the thrift store back into other organizations that need it and help needy children and families, and that's great. That's just some of the things that we did. We enhanced the 911 system. We used $400,000 as a splosh money that we first created because that was part of our public safety plan, was to enhance the 911 system, where when you make a phone call and something happens, you get disconnected, we know where the call came from, and we can send emergency personnel to that. So, I have a lot of support in the race from emergency personnel, actually more than I would have ever believed I'd have had, but these boys that go out here and they fight a fire and they drive an ambulance, they're not doing it for the money because they don't get paid but just pennies on what they're worth. And I hope to try to rectify that for them, but I'll have to commend them. I mean, they do a heck of a job for very little reward. We all need to thank them for what they do. Most of them have to work 2 to 3 jobs, to support their families.
At least 2 jobs.
At least 2 jobs. And that's, they're supporting me because, their heart is in what they do. And when you call one of them, if they weren't on staff at that time, I'm sure any one of them would come to your aid or mine. They're dedicated, and I never would have believed that they would have come out and stuck their neck out like they have for me, but they see the need in the county, and I pledged to help them. When I was commissioner in 2004, I took care of the employees first. Every year that we did a budget, and you could ask our finance director then, the first thing we did, we took and gave our employees a pay increase. We had good employees, and we wanted to keep them, and we tried to reward them. Same way with my own personal business. If you've got employees, if you'll take care of them, they'll take care of you.
Absolutely.
And that, then we started after we took care of the employees, and we did everything else with all the other elected officials and department heads.
Right.
And we came up with a way, somehow to lower taxes 3 out of 4 years.
Right.
And I know, Robert Jones says that we went over budget in 2004. Well, he's 100% right. We went over budget in 2004. We built a lot of things. We lowered taxes in 2004. We gave our employees a pay increase in 2004. We saved money where we could do that, and we were not borrowing the money. So, he's right. We did go over budget 1 year out of 4. That's not bad. And lowered the taxes that year. Just looking back on it, I don't know how we did what we did with the amount of money that we had. Our budget normally was around $12 million a year. It was almost 13 that year. We spent 16. But the prior years, it was $12 million. Now we're looking at a budget that's over $20 million a year. And in 2004, we had about 28,000 people in Pickens County. We have about 28 to 29,000 now. People can go online to Northeast Georgia RDC and pull up all the statistics. We're still just a fraction of the population above what we were 10 years ago,
Right.
12 years ago.
Well, if voters want to get more information, you have a website set up. They can reach out to you, or phone number. Or what's the best way for voters?
My phone number is 706-692-8006. My email address is billnewton8006@yahoo.com. I'll be glad to answer any questions. Tell you what our plan is. I've lived in Pickens County ever since I was about 2 or 3 years old, and it's my home, and I want to make it the best I can.
All right.
For everybody.
Well, Bill, thank you for being on.
I appreciate it.
There's only a couple more days left, so we want to tell all the listeners, get out and vote for the candidate of your choice. Do some research. Everybody can Google to see what happened on the Cardassians. How about Google and find out about your county and what's really important, and make an educated vote. Either tomorrow's last day to early vote, and then if not, see you next Tuesday. Again, thank y'all for being on with Patriotic Dragon Radio.
Thank you, William.
All right, thank you,
Everybody
Bill.
go out and vote.
All right.